Hello. In the last video, we talked about ways to prolong our life and to live healthy naturally. Today we will look at various pills and supplementation and these magic pills that we can take to live a healthier and longer life. And so I will discuss a few of them, and I think this will be very interesting. So our cells are actually really crazy, and it's not possible without enzymes. And Richard Feyman actually said, when you look at the cellular level, anything is possible, and aging is not inevitable. There's no law against it. And actually all it is it's an increase in entropy or a loss of information. And so potentially we can last forever as long as we can preserve the biological information and absorb the energy from somewhere else. So being able to preserve it, right, to essentially repair it over and over again, but is what can allow much longer lifespans. And so since many years ago, since Gilometh and Methusaleh, we essentially learned a lot about cells and biology and all that stuff since the time of Hooke, when he looked in the microscope studying bark trees. We learned a lot about cells and how they work. And through Shcroindinger in 1944, where he talked about other laws of physics like quantum, right? We learned a lot through all of those things. And in fact, we can use medicine to modulate enzymes. So we know more about how life works and actually have the tools to change the genetics and the epigenetics. And so we can actually use drugs to enhance lifespan on top of all the natural remedies that I discussed earlier, like fasting and exercise and the cold. So the first drug is called Rapamycin. It was discovered in Chile on a volcanic island in 1965 in a microorganism, stetomycous hygroscepus, and it was found actually under a stonehead tree. It was originally used as an antifungal for athlete's foot, but we wanted to, and so it actually had some toxic effects actually. And it was removed in the 1983, but then came back. It was convinced to be approved again in the late 1980s because of its beneficial effects. It actually lowers the immune response, which allows organ transplants to be possible. But it also causes other toxic effects, which is why it was banned in the first place, like kidney toxicity, etc. And so recently it has been shown, which I guess why it was reapproved later, is it actually is useful for, well, I'm sorry, it's not, well, I mean, some people are taking it in very small doses right now, so it is available, but it has been shown to lead to longer lifespan, as increased life in yeast cells has been shown as they increase the amount of daughter cells that they can do. Later, it was also shown in fruit flies and mice. And hopefully decades later it will be possible in humans. And so it reduces actually mTOR, or inhibits mTOR, which reduces the risk of disease being born from an old parent. That's what has been shown. And so it has potential for longer lifespans by inactivating mTOR and reducing disease, right? It has been shown also in fruit flies and in mice. But this compound is more toxic than the other two I'll be talking about, or the other three. And so the second one is actually from a flower, Gallego officinalis, used in herbal medicine in Europe. And it has like a guanidine structure. It's used for healthy protein metabolism, and actually in diabetes in the 1920s it was discovered to reduce blood glucose. And the Frenchman in the 1950s actually looked at its effects for type 2 diabetes, before Stan published in 1957 its effect for type 2 diabetes due to its dimethylguanidine structure. And this compound is actually called Metformin, and people who are diabetic surely know about this compound. It's actually very safe and cost effective, much safer than rapamycin, and it's less than $5 a month. So it's pretty much a bargain. It's so cheap. And it has very low side effects too. Well, like stomach upset, but they're only very minor compared to rapamycin, which causes kidney toxicity, etc. But metformin has to be taken with a tablet or a glass of milk to reduce its side effects even more. and I guess to be better absorbed into your body. And so metformin also increases lifespan independent of diabetes. And the Cabo lab actually showed that where there was a 6% increase in the lifespan of rodents. It also reduces cholesterol and reduces the risk of cancer, so has some benefits. It works by activating AMPK, which boosts mitochondrial activity, removes misfolded proteins, and inhibits cancer cell metabolism, right? And that's actually really, really great. So it prevents cancer from taking place and boosts mitochondria, reduces things like dementia and frailty as well. And so AMPK activates NAD, which activates sirtuins, and that's how it works to fight the defenses of aging, etc. And so the problem is metformin, it's used for diabetes, and so as long as you have an HbA1c level of 93.5% or less, you're probably not going to get it approved. And so in some places it's possible, like in Thailand actually, but other places it's not. And so it's great. It's shown to really prevent aging and reduce things like depression, dementia, frailty, and a lot of studies show its anti-cancer properties as well. And for so cheap, like for less than $5 a month, and you get a 6% boost in lifespan and reduce a bunch of bad chronic disease. So definitely a good thing to take because it's much more safe than rapamycin. The third one is called Stack It Up. And so in yeast, as you know, SIRT2 stabilizes rRNA. That was shown in the 1990s by David Sinclair and actually increases lifespan. There's another guy called Conrad Howitz, and he showed what activates SIRT2 and what inhibits it. And there's actually a molecule that he showed that works 10 times faster than some of the other things that they had in mind, like ficetine and butene are activators. But they found something else which works 10 times faster. And after showing it to Zipkin, which is another component, which is another person, it was found that there's a component of a similar structure involving two phenyl rings, known as resveratrol, which is found in red wine and stressed plants, and actually involves the same pathways as hunger or caloric restriction, and allows yeast cells to replicate 34 versus 25 times, equivalent to 50 extra human years. And it actually works with its xenohormetic effects. It increases yeast lifespan from 40 to 50 days, so they can replicate much longer and live much longer. And same for roundworms and human cells. This was later shown to be true. So resveratrol, molecules of the two phenyl rings that Zipkin found, was very similar to these other molecules, but even much better, 10 times faster in activating these SIRT2 specifically SIRT2 gene. SIRT2 longevity gene. And some of its features are it increases mitochondria, reduces inflammation, lowers blood glucose, and helps these rodents essentially live 20% longer with less cholesterol, psoriasis, like less skin issues, etc. And resveratrol and the intermittent fasting combined can give you the most benefits. Actually, the sales of red wine went up 30% when it was discovered, and so clearly this delays aging. And there's actually other stacks like resveratrol that also work as well, like SRT1720 and 2104. But I don't know how well that they work or whether they work as well as resveratrol. And so clearly the resveratrol is great. It mimics hunger and caloric restriction, and it clearly boosts the lifespan of yeast, but it was also shown effective in roundworms and humans, which is actually pretty neat in terms of its effects, like lowering glucose, cholesterol, inflammation reduction, mitochondria, preventing skin issues, etc. So, since resveratrol boosts the activates sirtuins, remember we said that NAD also can activate sirtuins. It's another stack, and you're actually dead without it for 30 seconds. Very important one. And again, this one is also used for inflammation, mitochondria, diarrhea, for dementia, right, for neurodegenerative problems, and also for skin sores, etc. And Imai and Guerrant showed that it was a fuel for sirtuins, as well as its other function, housekeeping functions that it has. Problem with NAD is that it lowers in age, so it's good that we take it to replenish us as we get older. And there's this molecule, PNC1, I think I talked about it earlier. You can also activate it with other natural ways, like being cold, for example. But PNC1 converts B3 to NAD, and so it recycles the NAD, engaging the SIRT2 in yeast, and increasing their lifespan by 50% when given 4 extra copies of this PNC1. So you can clearly, in fact, you can use a virus to give NAMPT, which is a PNC1 variant, to humans. And so, as you can see, this PNC1, which recycles NAD, increases the lifespan of yeast by 50% when given 4 extra copies. That's a lot. That's really so much. On top of its other benefits for neurodegenerative, preventing inflammation, mitochondria, and preventing aging and all that stuff. NMN, so there's 2 other kind of molecules, NR and NMN. NR was discovered by Brenner in 2004, but those 2 actually also increase NAD in animals by 25% in a couple of hours, so you mimic fasting and exercise. So if you don't want to take NAD directly, you can take its precursors, which are NR and NMN. And in 2011, it was shown that NMN, which was discovered to treat diabetes, and it was also shown in Harvard to boost mitochondria. So as I mentioned, NMN has mitochondrial boosting effects, and also good for chronic disease like neurodegenerative, but also good for dementia. I mean for diabetes and for dementia. And in 2016, David Sinclair showed it treats type 2 diabetes in obese mice and in their offspring. And in 2017, it was shown that NMN actually boosts endurance, balance, coordination, speed, strength, and then for all these physical benefits as well. So it prevents many things. Other labs showed it's good for kidney disease, as I mentioned, neurodegenerative conditions, mitochondrial disease, and fragile which is a lack of coordination, which puts very young people in wheelchairs. Again, because this is good for balance, coordination, speed, strength. It prevents frailty, of course, all that stuff. So it's definitely something really good to be taking. Okay, due to its effects in boosting mitochondria, reducing inflammation, and all of its other amazing benefits. And so it actually works by the stress pathways. It activates sirtuins, right? NMN also increases fertility actually, and restores menstruation in fertile horses, even in mice. And so you can actually restore fertility in horses, mares, and even mice. And in 2004, a study showed that it restores mice fertility even in older mice, and even mice that underwent chemotherapy. Actually, it works that way because NMN activates SIRT2, which leads to younger cells, and so the cells are still fertile. And David's dad actually takes metformin for his borderline type 2 diabetes, and then NMN as well, and he sees the benefits. He can ride his 3-wheelers, go to bushes, ziplining, hunting, all that stuff, and simply he's just taking metformin and NMN, and he sees benefits. Is it for sure because it's those drugs? No, but he clearly sees the benefits, and he can't see any other things that can lead to him being so enjoying life at that age. And so clearly he attributes it to these molecules. So definitely there's some synthetic drugs that can be taken to mimic the natural effects of fasting, exercise, and being in the cold or being in the very heat. And so these include rapamycin, which although are for diabetes, they're dimethyl-1 in structure, is used for diabetes, but it's also used to increase longevity, prevent cancer, all that stuff, as well as metformin and other SIRTUIN activators such as Resveratrol and NMN.